have change of non-immigrant status. So in general, non-immigrants may change their status to an F1 student if qualified. F1 students may qualify to obtain a work-related H-1B visa after completing their studies. Now, prospective students may legitimately travel to the U.S. on a B2 visa. However, in order to select a school or to complete admissions or to complete an admissions process that requires a personal revisit. Now, consular officers may require prospective students to show that they would eventually be eligible for F1 status by producing the supporting documentation required. Students applying for H-1B classification must demonstrate that they are qualified to work in a specialty occupation. Some students use the change to H-1B status as an intermediary step towards obtaining permanent residency. Now, if a F1 status students may qualify to adjust directly to permanent resident status through a relative or employer. If a student's spouse, adult child, or parent is a U.S. citizen, the student may be eligible to acquire permanent residency as an immediate relative. Students may not marry, however, solely to obtain immigration benefits. Now, violation of student status. Reinstatement is only allowed if the student, one, makes a written request for reinstatement, has not been out of status for more than 5 months at the time of filing the request for reinstatement, or demonstrates that the failure to file within the 5 month period was the result of exceptional circumstances, and that the student filed the request for reinstatement as promptly as possible. 3, can establish that the violation of status resulted from circumstances beyond the student's control, or that failure to reinstate the student will result in extreme hardship to the student. 4, is currently pursuing or intends to pursue a full course of study. 5, has not engaged in unauthorized employment. 6, provides documentary proof of funding to continue in school and maintain full-time status. And 7, is not removable on any ground. Now, violations of student status can affect a student's ability to travel to and from the United States in the future. Students who remain in the U.S. for 180 days or more after the USCIS determines that they are out of status are barred from re-entering the U.S. for a period of 3 years. Now, students who remain in the U.S. for 1 year or more are barred from re-entering the U.S. for 10 years. Anyone who has failed to maintain legal status continuously since entry into the United States is ineligible to adjust to permanent resident status. Now, for inadmissibility, the Immigration Marriage Fraud Amendments of 1986 provide that any person who fraudulently or willfully misrepresents a material fact in order to procure any benefit conferred by the Immigration and Nationality Act is ineligible to receive a visa and will be denied admission into the United States. Now, M1 students. M1 students are students who come to study at a vocational or non-academic institution. They are students that are admitted for the length of their course of studies plus 30 days or for 1 year, whichever one is less. They are not permitted to work. They are allowed practical training, and they are not permitted to change to F1 status or H status in order to work. Now, with H status, there is an exception. They may change to H status only to work in another field. Now, last but not least, we have J1 exchange students. So, to be admitted to J1 status, as a student, the non-immigrant must satisfy any of one of the four criteria. So, one, either the student or the program must be funded by the U.S. government, the government of the student's home country, or an international organization. The program must be carried out pursuant to an agreement between the United States and a foreign government. The program must be carried out pursuant to an agreement between a U.S. university and either a foreign university or foreign government, or the student must be supported substantially from a source other than personal or family funds. Now, granted to individuals who are under the sponsorship of an exchange program approved by the Department of State allows exchange students to enter to the U.S. They are allowed a longer period of practical training than F1 status. Certain students um, are required to live outside of the United States for 2 years after completing their course of study. That is one primary disadvantage of J1 status. They may remain in the U.S. for the duration of the program plus 30 days before they have to depart. And they may work for the program sponsor or another designated employer within the guidelines of the approved exchange program. Okay, so that's all I have on Chapter 7. Thanks.